good, bad, and think different Java. We'll start with the think difference. About that triple antenna passing bird at the SpaceX Falcon 9 explosion that happened. It had happened. It's a thing that happened. Someone says bowling ball sized spherical bird with no wings, or just an out of focus image because it was between the subject and the camera. Flying at Mach 2, or really, really close to the camera. It's 7 frames out of 30 across the field of view. Not a field of view. Debunked by Waptek. Nothing to see here, folks. Our sarcasm, or is it a sarcasm? So anyway, this unnamed moron didn't like that I debunked something that maybe you wanted to cover with BS. Again, it's not about what you want, it's about what's real. Next, we'll just do this. Next person. Blow them up on the ground, it's cheaper than doing it in the air. Fake spacecraft. Waptek's a shill, Waptek's a sellout, etc. And he also says I'm cheap. I'm awfully expensive, so I'm not a sellout. Someone would have to pay me a lot of money. This is again about the SpaceX explosion. And again, no corroboration or other images. There are multiple videos that are derived from the same feed, and I did look up a couple of others, and all I got was one extra frame with the same data in it. The resolution really wasn't much higher, and it doesn't show anything other than that, but it could have also been something even more sinister. A fly going past really close to the camera. Because of the focal length, the rule I learned was that unless you use a camera with a very, very extreme depth of field, halfway to your subject you're pointing it at, you're going to start getting blurring at least, probably even further out. And if it's a really good camera, you very much further out, because you're trying to capture the information as to what's happening during the launch. Look at the scale again, and no, it wasn't Mach 2. At Mach, you get a shockwave, you get a sonic boom. Ask someone who's fired a gun about transonic objects. I don't know where your expertise comes from, moron number 1 and 2, but you hasn't got it. Next one. As far as the recent video I uploaded about the mutant response vehicle, etc., ad nauseum. I mean, this is a dead subject, but I thought it was fun. Probably for the next X-Men film. I thought that too, but I actually got tracked down before then. Otherwise, I would have assumed it was just a promotional idea. It is done with humor, and it's funny. Next. Someone else. Johnny, oh, that was documenting dangerous skies. Yeah, that was my first guess. That would be the first guess of a reasonable person is, you know, except that it used the Biohazard logo, which is almost always used by another movie that I didn't bring up, but I'll just go ahead and bring it up now because it's not really part of the story either. Neither is the X-Men, because we do actually have the explanation. For the movie Resident Evil, they use the Biohazard symbol a lot, or variation of it, for the Umbrella Corporation, which is a joke and play on words. Next. Johnny Jazz, we do the same service at Rainbow Family Gathering. Yeah, I know about that. Of the tribes, using VW Westphalias, or Westphalias, or Phalicas, old RVs covered up with hippie art. WelcomeHome.org Rainbow Index. Where the gathering will be in 2017, somewhere in Oregon. Are you going? You'd enjoy it. Everything except shelter. You got to bring a tent. Gee, I don't know how to do that. It's freely provided by the hundreds of soup kitchens. I was at the gathering in Washington State 2011, etc. ad nauseum. I did not post above link. I also arrived just when someone cleared the snow so we could drive in from Hood River. Snow was still on the ground when we left July 4th. Yeah, that happens. Next one. This is the other side of it. Fractal Truth posted a video daring me to debunk it. I was too busy debunking cat videos. And then he also posted a comment today. I love turtles. He got the joke. Yes! Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Heroes and Half Shell. Turtle Power. So anyway. Next. Cygnus, or Cygnus, did the whole, if anybody doesn't know this, I'm a Python liker, not a lover. And African or European swallow, unladen or not. also had me do a second look, and that's what the video, this part of the video is going to be about real quick. The person's video you looked at was using a video that was enhanced, or was a lower res rip image like everybody else got. The video you're looking at, my video, has a link to the as close to the original source as possible, which is what you have to use. You can't use someone else's modified video. Every time it's downloaded, edited, re-uploaded, or zoomed in, even the imaging zoom in that I did technically violates my own rule about not modifying it. I did zoom it in. That can create artifacting. It can. Even third phase of the moon, which for some reason decided to tell the truth about this, even he enhanced it to the point it might have created artifacts. So you have to use the original video at the original resolution. You can't zoom in or alter it. Then it's not the original video. But as for taking the second look at the orb, that imaging effect was caused by enhancement. I'm going to have to do a video this week on why enhancing a video on YouTube, especially, or off the internet in general, is usually a waste of time for reasons. I'll have to cover that in detail, but I'm going to explain why. Unless an image shows something pretty generic, there's nothing really to extract from that video. There just isn't. How much of what you just saw was real, or just the thing figuring out that this isn't the most dominant characteristic and I am? And if I can get away with it, I'm not going to edit this video. I'm tired of doing retakes. Next, a request. Yes, Mr. Hanover, you want me to look at a Crow 777 video about him saying that rockets don't go into space, and that one really, seriously, Warner Brothers comic book strip version of a spacecraft that lands and takes off in the same position. There's lots of videos of it failing. They decided to do the Russian method of not showing you the failed, explosive, horrifying things. So that's one of the things about SpaceX. We get to see one finally, because they were overconfident. I'm not getting on a SpaceX spaceship until they show us all the broken, exploded videos. Anyway, yeah, Crow 777-666.007 Dabu 444, whatever his name is. He is a problem doing this sort of thing. He used to be good. Well, he used to produce some things that actually asked questions and looked up stuff. Now he's just pulling it out of his rump. The whole point of those videos is to separate people who will argue with him, so he can create a dedicated fan base. It's not about critical thinking, it's about removing critical thinkers. Sorry. As for doing anything about it, I'll look at the latest video, maybe. I got a whole laundry list of channels to look into, including cat videos to debunk. And then Pauline Plast, quote of the day. Well, maybe. We'll see what this will be one of them. Sometimes, kids, big, shiny, fella-shaped, space-bound vehicles filled with flammable substances go boom. Thank you for saying that. I could have just done that in the video, but oh no! I kind of alluded to it. Bridgekeeper says, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? King Arthur says, what do you mean? An African or European swallow? Bridgekeeper, huh? I don't know that. Ah! Thrown off the bridge by his own magical spell. Next one. One of his knights. How do you know so much about swallows, King Arthur? Well, you have to know these things when you're the king, you know. And then next one, Tom Spinham, PA. Although the Klingons were not responsible party, you don't know that. Pretty cool explosion. Kerosene propellant, yeah. This is the fun one. As most of you have realized, if you've ever picked up a full keg versus a half-full keg and wondered why someone talked you into doing it, when they're completely full, they don't slosh around. When they are full, they have baffles in them to keep them from sloshing around. And under high speed, moving them up in the air kind of thing, they're moving in one direction and create effectively their own gravity. And because of the slosh factor, early liquid-fueled rockets would slosh and flop over and explode. They would tear themselves to pieces, so they have anti-slosh baffles. That's actually what they call them sometimes. You can also look at a video of the inside of a kerosene-filled rocket with its own oxygen tank, it just doesn't show it, supplying power to an engine on the butt end of it and propelling itself into space. And watch gallons and gallons of kerosene fly out the butt end, otherwise known as Jet A. It's high-grade kerosene. It has to be brought up to a higher temperature so that it vaporizes before it's ignited, or it's not an efficient burn, even if it's mixed with oxygen. See also the engine design, where the engine has the fuel put into the bell of it to preheat it, and then it goes up to the top and then goes out the squirter, it's called a jet, and ignites it and creates propulsion. You can also use gases like hydrogen and oxygen, but they have to be in liquid form to make them take up less space. You would think a solid form would be even more dense of energy. The trouble is, and it also expands more, but the solid fuel ones are harder to throttle. Solid fuel engines are not really able to have a foot pedal to stomp on it, and that's kind of needed. So they use liquid propellant, in this case kerosene. Don't ask. By the way, kerosene has the same specific energy output as gasoline and several other things, and it's denser, therefore, already at atmospheric pressure and temperatures than hydrogen is when it's liquefied. Maybe. I mean, it depends on what you're doing with it. You can look up the specifics about it, but one of them requires refrigeration and a bunch of upkeep, and the other one just requires a tank and anti-slosh baffle. Next one, Nerobli. Gerobli. I'm not a Nibiru hysteric. I think if we want it to function on Earth, or we have it function on Earth, is it such a stretch for people with the technology may have put them into the sky? The point is that the object that's being shown in the images is a land-bound item, and speculating on whether it's in space or not is not relevant. It's 20 feet across and can't do what is being advertised. And this is about the ISS hexagonal reflector beanie in space, supposedly blocking out the sun everywhere, being visible for the second son of Nibiru or whatever, or some other nameless, spaceless conspiracy, based on a set of presumptions and hypothetical ideas, and that's it. Versus what it really is, which is something on the ground that's bolted to the ground, that is, maybe 30 feet across, 50 feet across, whatever. It's a bunch of mirrors aiming sunlight at an object, not the other way around. There's a lot of peculiar stuff happening with amateur photography on YouTube and on pro-Nibiru sites, yes. It's suggestive of a very bright light source obscuring attempts to capture actual sun footage. No, it isn't, because it's not consistent. If you aim a camera from your specific location and can't get a good image of the sun because you think there's some sort of anomaly, but you can just set up a camera literally a block away and get the image, then it's just trying to stop you. Or you have a camera with lens flare effect in it. Or maybe the camera's freaking out because the firmware's broken. These are things that are reality-based. Sorry. I'm not saying it's necessarily there to cloak anything. Well, actually, you're kind of insinuating that. Why would anybody block out the sun when you can see it from most of the planet at any one time? And why would anybody think it would succeed? Because if it succeeded in stopping you from seeing something next to the sun, like a second planet, or moon, or a star, then everybody would notice that part was being blocked out. And then again, there's no corroboration. Someone doesn't take the camera and do something simple like, here's the procedure. Here, I'm Nibiru. Okay, now we tilt me to make sure it matches the environment I'm in. Then we have another camera that's over here doing the same thing. If they don't corroborate each other, then it's not really there. It's an anomaly in one camera or another. Or it's really, really close to the camera, which means Nibiru is about that big, or your second sun is about that big. And it's not in space because it's far away. If it's in space, it's not close. These are consistencies or reality checks that we have to do. And next one. The more I look into it, the more it looks like something very difficult to prove because of how brightly it's projecting. Or what I've just explained is not being done. Every video page and every website you're looking at avoids those tests because they don't want to answer the question. They just want to keep it going. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with this. And stop listening to the doubt generators.